Welcome into this episode of the Middletown Now podcast. This is a podcast where we tell the Middletown success stories here in the city, people who work here, people who live here, people who are from here. I'm your host, Clayton Castle. I'm the communications manager for the city of Middletown, and I am so excited to talk to our first guest. Mike Diehl is a former firefighter and retired strongman competitor whose accolades include over a dozen medals and championships, including earning the title of World's Strongest Disabled Man in 2023. Mike, thank you for joining us.
Anytime. Thank you for having me.
So before your strongman competing days, you were actually a firefighter here, actually in Franklin.
Yeah.
What got you into firefighting?
Well, actually, I initially wanted to be a police officer to help people out, and there was a really saturated job market, whatever. I couldn't get a full-time job, so I decided, let's be a firefighter, and everybody loves firemen, so that's what I did.
You're also a Navy veteran. You also later worked in the Middletown City School District, so obviously you have a heart for public service.
Yes, sir.
Can you talk a little bit about that heart for public service and kind of what led you into that field?
Well, after I lost my arm, I floated around a little bit, and I wanted to get back to the things that I'd always been into, so I went back to my guidepost, which was serving others. And when I was in high school, I wanted to be either a fireman or a high school teacher. And when I lost the ability to be a firefighter, I decided I was going to help kids like I wanted to when I was in high school. And I've spent my entire life in public service, so it was time to get back to that.
You talked about losing your arm. In 2015, you were involved in an accident where your arm was amputated. Can you talk a little bit about that accident and really how it shaped what was next in your life?
Yeah, it was just a freak accident at work. It was 15 minutes before shift change, and long story short, a bad accident. Everything went wrong that could go wrong, and I ended up being pinned by a fire truck to the wall, and it did a lot of damage, and the damage couldn't be fixed. So my medical team and I made the decision to cut it off because, quite frankly, I had stuff to do, So I had them amputate, and then I got back to doing the things I love doing.
Which, let's talk about strongman.
Yeah.
So exactly what is strongman, and what is the difference between strongman and maybe a bodybuilder or another athlete that involves lifting weights?
Well, like the difference between strongman and bodybuilding or powerlifting is powerlifting, for instance, is very specific. It's bench, squat, and deadlift. That's all they do. It's very static, and it doesn't measure functional strength. Bodybuilding is more about the aesthetics of how you lifted weights to make your body look a certain way. And strongman is not only the ability to pick up a weight, but then to move with it. So it tests functional strength and your ability to work.
So you go into strongman. How does one even start training for strongman?
Actually, I started by powerlifting, and I won my first powerlifting contest, and I met a guy named James Spurgeon, who's probably the greatest adaptive strength athlete of all time. And he said, Mike, you'd be really, really good at strongman. You should give it a try. So I started training with him up in Columbus. And I love the sport because, like I said, it tests functional strength. It's not just my ability to pick up a weight, but what can I do with the weight now that I'm carrying it around?
Talk a little bit about your first strongman competition. What was that moment like for you?
Wow. So after I won my first powerlifting contest, I got approached by one of the premier guys in the sport of disabled strongman. From Iceland, Magnus Magnusson and his partner Arnold Mar Johnson, and they invited me to come compete at the Arnolds in Columbus.
Okay, cool. So the Arnold Games in Columbus, that's actually a big competition. You hear about it all the time. When COVID started in 2020, that event shut down.
Yeah,
and that was kind of the first event that people realized, oh, this is a real virus. This is really happening. Yeah,
the Arnold Classic in Columbus is the world's largest multi-sport festival, and more people go to that than go to the Super Bowl. So it was a real honor and a real privilege to get to compete on that level and on that stage and show the world what being disabled is really about.
So being a strongman is one thing, but being a strongman champion is a whole other thing. When did you kind of realize that you could not just compete, but also be a champion?
I think right away. I've been an athlete my whole life. So right away, I realized when I was getting, second and third place finishes consistently, in everything that I did, that if I just ramped it up a little bit and really got on my training and got on my nutrition, that I had a shot. So that's what I did. So I competed for about 6 years, and that last year I took like 3 first place finishes, and one of them was the World Championships. And I just decided, like, I hate taking second place. I'm a sore loser. And you'll find that most successful people are sore losers. But along that line, I got sick of taking second place, and I just decided I'm going to win. And
that's awesome. 2023 World's Strongest Disabled Man title. What does that title mean to you?
There's a lot of people that have come before me, and there's going to be a lot of people that go after me. So to be etched in the record books like that to me it's a really big deal. To be counted among the greatest strength athletes of all time. I like to be humble because, like, I couldn't have done it without a lot of people. But and where I come from is a huge deal. Like, had I stayed where I grew up, I don't think I would have had the mental fortitude, I think, that growing up in a place like Middletown has. It's a tough town, and it creates tough people. And there was many times when I wanted to quit, and I thought to myself, if I quit, what is this going to say to the people where you come from, who look up to you and what you're about?
So when did your history in Middletown start? When did you move here, and why did you decide to live here?
So I was talking to the camera guys before the session here, and he asked me pretty much the same question. And it was funny because when I was 17, I was real hard-headed, and I actually ran away from home. And I ran away to Middletown, Ohio, because my mom lived here. And when I got here, my mom was like, "You're pretty much on your own, dude." So it was learn quick and get tough, and learn to take care of yourself, or the alternative. So it's a good town. It's a tough town, and it's full of tough people. And if you're willing to work hard, there's nothing you can't do or have. Like I said, as long as you're willing to work hard here, because people here see right through your BS.
Well, people who are from here or live here, we have a history of champions in this town. We have the Carter brothers. We have Kyle Schwarber. We have Kayla Harrison. What does it mean to you to be a part of that group?
Wow.
Group of champions.
Thank you for that accolade. That's really a big deal, and I'd never really thought about it that way. But this place has a disproportionate number of highly successful people compared to its population size. And like, one of the things that I noticed right away if you're from Middletown, you're from Middletown. You're not from Cincinnati. You're not from Dayton. You're from Middletown. Even though we're right in between, and we could probably claim to be from one of those bigger places, people are really proud to be from here. And if you're about hard work and you're about being successful, these people will get behind you, and that drives you and pushes you to be bigger than you probably could be without that.
Right. So, talking a little bit about what you've done since you retired. You retired in 2023, but you've also given back since you retired. When I was telling you before we started shooting that I first heard of you because you gave back to the flood victims in Kentucky.
Yes, sir.
What did it mean for you to go down there and help those people through donations, through providing supplies, and just from being there?
Well, I have a good friend that I was good friends with in the Navy, and we'll keep him unnamed because he doesn't like the limelight a lot. But he lives in Leslie County, Kentucky, and we go back all the way to my days in the Navy where we were best friends. And when you're best friends in the military and you say, I'm literally willing to die to protect you and be your friend, you take that seriously. So when he called me and said that the flooding was really bad and like they had lost power for 5 days, and even though their house hadn't flooded, that like there were a lot of people in a lot of need. So that's my friend. I'm going to show up. And I got a lot of people here in Middletown who got behind me really well. And one of the places I work, Carol Speakeasy, the bar, they let me like raise funds. They let me like use it as a depot to store things until I could take them down there. And we made 2 trips, and I think we made a big deal. Middletown, Ohio made a really good showing of what we're about to take care of people.
Yeah, I think you have a very unique story, which is why I wanted you on the podcast, from the accident to everything you've done with your life since then. A lot of people can just kind of sulk when something like that happens, but you really picked yourself up and got through that adversity and made yourself a literal champion. when you kind of reflect on what the last 10 years have been like, what kind of goes through your mind?
My wife likes to make fun of me and say I live by like bumper sticker quotes. And to a degree I do, but like one of those quotes is, tough times don't last, tough people do. And I remember when I was lying there on the concrete floor after they pulled the truck off me, and I could hear a myriad of things going on in my head. One of them was my son. And I told myself, I was really tired, and I told myself, if you go to sleep, you're going to die. You're never going to see your son again. So I owe a lot to my son in regard to like who I am and where I've come from. But another one of the things that I like to live by is that hardship does not give us an excuse to wallow in idle self-pity, but rather gives us the perspective to address the needs and suffering of others. So my life started taking shape over the last 10 years and actually having some meaning other than myself when I realized that my life isn't about me. It's about what my story can do to help someone else. So I got involved in working in the school district for kids with special needs, and that alone would have been enough, because those kids, they never looked at me any different. They just looked at me like I was one of them. And that it gave me a rudder, a guidepost to really understand, why I'm here.
Yeah.
So I'm really grateful and blessed to have the opportunity to do stuff that's not about me.
So what's next now? You start giving back to other communities. What's next for Mike?
To be honest, man, I suffer from pretty severe PTSD. And with that in mind, like a lot of people would think that having one arm is the debilitating factor in my journey, but it's really not. I've learned how to do a million things really well with one arm, but mental health and PTSD and having those kind of illnesses, I don't handle stress really well now. So I have to go to therapy, and I'm really grateful for my therapist. I'm grateful for all the people in my life that won't mince words with me, and they shoot me the real deal. I'm just a husband and a father, and I just got a job working at a Lowe's garden center where I can do something to help my family and not be stressed out.
I was hoping to end on that, but you mentioned mental health.
Yeah.
And I'm personally speaking, I'm someone who, try to live every day to end the stigma against mental illness. What would you say to someone who might be struggling with depression or struggling with anxiety or struggling with PTSD in terms of, maybe it gets better? What would be your advice be to them?
Surround yourself with people that genuinely care about you. And those people will tell you all the time because part of the stigma with mental illness, especially for men, is it's very isolating, and it makes you want to like draw back in yourself and not be around people and not confide in people and not trust people. But you have to be able to lean on people. And like therapy saved my life. My therapist, she's worth every penny. And don't be afraid when a psychiatrist or a psychologist suggests these medications, and like you said, there's a huge stigma on that, and you can't let that get to you. It's being mentally tough is one thing, but being tough to the point of detrimental to your family and to yourself is not a good thing. So yeah, get help. Yeah, and if you, I'm pretty sure, like I had a friend tell me once, I'd rather listen to you whine and complain and tell me about what you're struggling with for hours than listen to your eulogy. So find those people in your life that you can lean on.
Well, Mike, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. This is going to be one of our first episodes, if not the first episode, and you have such an inspiring story, and I hope people at home take away all those different messages that you had for them and that advice you had for them. So I just want to say a heartfelt thank you for coming on the podcast.
Anytime, anything for the city.
So thank you all for tuning in to the first episode of the Middletown Now podcast. In case you couldn't tell, we are at the event center of Middletown on Central Avenue, where we are sitting at the bar. This venue is available for rent for birthday parties, for weddings, for any event that you could imagine. Come on over and check it out. Angie Smith and Antoinette Coleman will be happy to help you and to give you a tour of this beautiful space. That's it for us. Be sure to tune in next time on YouTube and anywhere else where you get your podcasts, and we'll see you then.